The air is thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and rotting ferns the size of small trees. You stand at the edge of a vast, seasonally dry floodplain in the heart of the late Jurassic, 150 million years ago. A low, guttural rumble echoes across the plains, a sound that makes the small feathered creatures in the undergrowth fall silent. Something immense is moving through the cycad groves. Through the foliage, you see a flash of scaly hide, a glint from a horn-like crest over a massive eye, and the curve of a jaw filled with teeth like serrated daggers. This is a world ruled by giants, a place of breathtaking beauty and brutal, everyday violence. Ever wonder what it truly felt like to stand in the shadow of a living giant? To hear its footsteps shake the very ground beneath your feet? It's a humbling thought. We'd love for you to share where in the world you're watching from today, and tell us in the comments which prehistoric creature absolutely captivates your imagination. Now, let's journey back in time and uncover the story of a lost world. The creature you're watching is one of the most successful predators of its time, a true icon of the Jurassic. Its name is Allosaurus, the different lizard, a name given because its vertebrae were lighter and shaped differently from other dinosaurs known at the time of its discovery. But its name doesn't capture the essence of what makes this animal so fascinating. To truly understand Allosaurus, you don't just look at a pristine, perfect skeleton. Instead, you must look at the damage. You have to become a prehistoric detective, examining a life story written not in words but in scars, fractures, and infections forever locked in stone. This is the science of paleopathology, and Allosaurus is one of its most compelling subjects. More than almost any other dinosaur, the fossils of this predator provide a brutal, detailed biography of its existence. We have found skeletons riddled with injuries, a silent testament to a life of constant conflict. Imagine a fossil so complete, it reads like a medical chart. A jawbone bearing the puncture marks from a rival's bite, now swollen with a fossilized infection. Toe bones broken from a violent kick or a clumsy misstep during a hunt. Ribs shattered by the tail of a giant sauropod, which then miraculously healed over, encasing the memory of that ancient battle. This isn't just a monster from a bygone era, it's a survivor. And by tracing these wounds, we can piece together the incredible, violent, and awe-inspiring reality of what it took to be the apex hunter of the Jurassic. To understand how it earned those scars, you have to appreciate the machine that bore them. You are now standing before the skeleton of a fully grown Allosaurus, an animal stretching over 30 feet long and weighing more than a rhinoceros. But mere size doesn't tell the whole story. Its entire anatomy is a masterclass in predatory engineering, a body built for brawling. Your eyes are first drawn to the skull. It's enormous, nearly 3 feet long, but it's not a solid block of bone. Instead, it's a lattice of struts and openings, a piece of natural architecture that paleontologists call fenestrae. This design is an incredible trick of evolution, creating a skull that is both lightweight for quick, snapping movements yet immensely strong at key stress points. Above the eyes, you see 2 small, rugged crests, perhaps once covered in keratin and flushed with color for display, a silent signal to rivals and mates. This wasn't a clumsy brute. It was a sophisticated and surprisingly agile hunter. Its primary weapons are mounted in that powerful jaw. You can run your fingers, very carefully, along the fossilized teeth. They aren't the thick, bone-crunching railroad spikes you might see in its later Cretaceous cousin. Tyrannosaurus. Instead, these are serrated, recurved blades, like a set of steak knives designed by nature. Each tooth was made for slicing deep into muscle, creating massive bleeding wounds. And like a shark, it had a conveyor belt of replacements ready to go. If a tooth snapped off in a struggle, a common occurrence, judging by the fossil record, another was already growing beneath it, ready to erupt and take its place. This ensured its arsenal was always sharp and ready for the next violent encounter. Now, you look down at its arms. Hollywood often gives large theropods comically tiny arms, but here, that stereotype is shattered. The arms of Allosaurus were massive and powerful, ending in 3-fingered hands. And on each finger, you see a terrifying finishing touch: a huge, sharply hooked claw. These weren't for show. They were grappling hooks, designed to dig into the thick hide of struggling prey, to hold on tight while those slicing teeth went to work. You can almost feel the power in the fossilized muscle attachments on the arm bones, evidence of a creature that could wrestle its victims into submission. This was a predator that got up close and personal. Its powerful legs carried it across the Jurassic plains, the long, stiffened tail acting as a perfect counterbalance, allowing it to be shockingly nimble for its size. Every piece of this animal, from the lightweight skull to the muscular legs and the fearsome claws, points to a life lived on the razor's edge. A life of violent, high-contact hunting that would inevitably leave its mark. That formidable body, with its slicing teeth and grappling arms, was perfectly tailored for the world it patrolled. You are now moving through that world, the vast expanse of Western North America known as the Morrison Formation. This is not a uniform, singular landscape. It is a shifting mosaic of environments. You walk through dense galleries of forests lining wide, meandering rivers, filled with conifers, ginkgos, and towering tree ferns. Then, you emerge onto a seemingly endless, semi-arid plain, a fern savanna that stretches to the horizon, dotted with cycads. The climate here is highly seasonal. For months, torrential rains flood these plains, creating a lush paradise. But they are followed by a long, brutal dry season, where the rivers shrink to muddy trickles and the landscape bakes under a relentless sun. It is this drying season that turns the world into a crucible. Animals of all sizes are forced to congregate around the dwindling water sources, creating a theater of immense opportunity and incredible danger for a predator like Allosaurus. As you scan the floodplain, you see the menu. A herd of Camptosaurus, stout, bipedal herbivores, nervously browse on low-lying vegetation. They are common, a reliable food source, but they are not easy prey. They are alert and surprisingly fast. A careless approach would result in nothing but a cloud of dust. But these are just the appetizers. The real challenge, the meal that could cost an Allosaurus its life, comes in a much more formidable package. A crashing sound from a nearby grove of tree ferns reveals a living fortress. It's a Stegosaurus, its back adorned with a double row of huge bony plates. While those plates are impressive, the real danger is at the other end. It swings its massive muscular tail, at the tip of which are 4 terrifying spikes, each up to 3 feet in length. This weapon, the Thagomizer, was more than capable of crippling or killing an attacker. Every fossil that shows an Allosaurus and a Stegosaurus together is a snapshot of a truly epic duel. And then there are the Titans. In the distance, a line of creatures moves like a range of hills given life. These are the sauropods, giants like Apatosaurus and the whip-tailed Diplodocus. A healthy adult, weighing over 20 tons, was virtually untouchable. A walking mountain of flesh and bone. An attack on one would be suicide. But a herd is only as strong as its weakest member. The young, the old, the sick. These were the targets. This was the ultimate prize. A source of food that could sustain a predator for weeks. But to claim that prize required tackling an animal many times its own size. An act of incredible audacity. This was the world of Allosaurus. A landscape of seasonal desperation, filled with prey that ranged from fleet-footed and wary to heavily armed and titanically large. Every hunt was a gamble, a violent negotiation that would, inevitably, leave deep and lasting scars. And those scars are not just a matter of speculation. They are a physical, tangible record. You are no longer on the Jurassic plains, but in the quiet, climate-controlled collections of a museum, looking at the fossilized remains of a single Allosaurus. This skeleton is a map of a brutal life, a biography told in trauma and recovery. Your gaze settles on the lower jaw. You can see a large, lumpy, abnormal growth of bone distorting its left side. It's a pathology. A fossilized record of a severe, chronic infection. Perhaps it started with a puncture wound from the thagomizer of a stegosaurus, or a bite from another Allosaurus during a territorial dispute. Whatever the cause, the bone shows that the infection festered, likely creating a painful, open abscess on the animal's face. Yet, you can also see signs that the animal's body fought the infection for a long, long time. It lived with this agonizing injury for months, maybe even years, continuing to hunt and survive. You move along the skeleton, tracing the rib cage. Here, the story continues. You can count them. More than a dozen ribs that were broken and subsequently healed. These aren't clean breaks. The bones refused at odd angles, creating thick, bony calluses that are a permanent testament to a moment of catastrophic impact. You can almost feel the force required to do that kind of damage. A fall during a high-speed chase, a crushing blow from the tail of a young sauropod, or a kick from a powerful ornithopod. The animal would have been in immense pain, its breathing labored. Every movement would have been a struggle. Yet, it didn't die. It found a safe place, rested, and its body slowly, painstakingly, knitted itself back together. It survived. Your eyes drift down to the massive three-toed foot. One of the toe bones is misshapen, clearly having been broken and healed askew. For a bipedal predator that relies on its legs for everything, a foot injury is a potential death sentence. It cripples its ability to run, to chase down prey, to simply move across the landscape. This Allosaurus would have walked with a pronounced limp. It would have been slower, more vulnerable. But the healed bone is undeniable proof that it adapted. It survived. This single skeleton is more compelling than any fantasy monster. It's a document of hardship, resilience, and an almost unbelievable toughness. It shows us that for Allosaurus, life wasn't a series of easy victories, but a long, brutal war of attrition against its prey, its rivals, and its own unforgiving world. That constant war of attrition begs a question. How did it hunt these giants? When you look at biomechanical studies of the Allosaurus skull, you find something surprising. For an animal of its size, its bite force was not exceptionally strong. Certainly nothing close to the bone-splintering power of a later T-Rex. It couldn't simply clamp down on the leg of an Apatosaurus and wrestle it to the ground. That would be suicide. Its slender skull would have shattered. So how did it tackle prey 10 times its own weight? The answer seems to lie in a brutal, audacious, and incredibly risky hunting strategy. You have to stop thinking of its jaws as a vice and start thinking of its entire head and neck as a weapon, like a biological battle axe. You can almost visualize the scene, pieced together from the clues in its skeleton. An Allosaurus closes in on its target, perhaps a juvenile sauropod separated from the herd. It doesn't lunge for a bone-breaking grip. Instead, it opens its mouth to a shockingly wide gape, nearly 90 degrees. Then, using its immensely powerful neck muscles, it drives its head downwards in a swift, violent strike. The upper jaw, lined with those recurved, serrated teeth, slams into the flank or neck of the prey. It's not a bite, it's a slash. The goal is to use the momentum of its own body to carve a massive, gaping wound. Then, just as quickly, it would release and pull back, retreating to a safe distance. This is the hatchet-bite hypothesis. This changes everything you thought you knew about how a dinosaur hunts. It's a strategy of hit and run, of inflicting a single, catastrophic injury, and then simply waiting. The Allosaurus would become a patient shadow, following its wounded quarry for hours, or even days, as shock and blood loss slowly did their work. It was a remarkably efficient way for a medium-sized predator to tackle a colossal prey item. But you can immediately see the immense risk involved. This is not a clean surgical strike. It requires getting dangerously close to a panicked multi-ton animal. A mistimed lunge, a defensive kick, or a swing of a gigantic tail could be fatal. The very same strategy that allowed it to dominate its environment is the one that almost certainly inflicted the litany of injuries you saw in its bones. Every broken rib and fractured toe was the potential price of this high-stakes gamble. That high-risk strategy of a single debilitating strike raises another fascinating question. Could one Allosaurus, even a large one, reliably take down a 10-ton sauropod, even a juvenile? The risk of failure or severe injury was immense. What if it wasn't always a solitary affair? The fossil record provides a tantalizing, if ambiguous, clue. You find yourself standing on the edge of what was once a prehistoric predator trap. During the dry season, this was a thick, muddy waterhole, an irresistible draw for thirsty animals. Herbivores would come to drink, get stuck in the viscous mud, and their panicked struggles would act like a dinner bell, attracting every carnivore for miles around. One such site, in modern-day Utah, has yielded the remains of over 40 individual Allosaurus, adults, subadults, and juveniles all jumbled together. The sheer number of predators found in one place is staggering and has led some to believe this is evidence of pack behavior. You can imagine the scene. A family group, or a loose coalition of hunters, working together to bring down prey too large for any single member. A coordinated attack would dramatically increase the chances of success and survival. This sight could be a snapshot of such a pack meeting a disastrous end, lured into the same mud that trapped their prey. However, there is another, perhaps more chaotic, interpretation. Perhaps this wasn't a coordinated pack at all, but simply a feeding frenzy. A succession of solitary hunters drawn to the easy meal over many years, each one misjudging the treachery of the mud and becoming another victim. The scene would be less like a wolf pack and more like a mob of modern crocodiles, tolerating each other with barely restrained violence. The evidence for this more violent interpretation is etched onto the bones themselves. You remember the infected jawbone, bearing puncture marks. Scientists have measured those marks, and they are a perfect match for the teeth of another Allosaurus. This is the smoking gun of face-to-face combat, likely over food, territory, or mating rights. The violence didn't stop there. At some of these fossil sites, researchers have found Allosaurus bones bearing the distinct scrape marks of Allosaurus teeth. Whether this was desperate cannibalism during the harshest of times, or simply scavenging the remains of a fallen rival, the message is clear. The brutal, close-quarters conflict that defined its life as a hunter was not reserved solely for its prey. The greatest threat an Allosaurus might face on any given day was, quite possibly, another Allosaurus. This complex, violent life, full of conflict with prey and its own kind, lay silent and locked away in stone for 150 million years. Its story only began to resurface in the late 19th century, during a period of intense and competitive fossil hunting in the American West, known as the Bone Wars. As rival paleontologists raced to unearth the largest and most spectacular giants, the bones of a massive new carnivore began to emerge from the rocks of the Morrison Formation. When they examined its backbone, they noticed something unusual. The vertebrae had hollow cavities, making them lighter than those of other known dinosaurs. It was this feature that earned it the name Allosaurus, the different lizard. At the time, they couldn't have known how appropriate that name would become. This was a different kind of predator, not just in its anatomy, but in the astonishingly detailed story its fossils would eventually tell. For decades, it remained one of many large theropods, impressive but enigmatic. Its true legacy was cemented with the discovery of sites like the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry, which yielded that incredible bounty of individuals. Suddenly, scientists didn't just have a single, isolated specimen. They had a whole population to study. They had juveniles, teenagers, and full-grown adults. This wealth of fossils allowed for an unparalleled look into how the animal grew, and, more importantly, how it lived and died. It was by studying this vast collection that the pattern of constant, brutal injury became so undeniably clear. Skeleton after skeleton showed the same signature of a hard-knock life. This is the ultimate legacy of the different lizard. It is more than just the quintessential Jurassic predator you see in museums and films. It is perhaps our single greatest window into the daily reality of a prehistoric carnivore. The abundance of its battle-scarred remains transformed our understanding of dinosaurs from simple, static monsters into dynamic, living animals that got sick, got hurt, and fought to survive against incredible odds. The healed fractures, the chronic infections, and the puncture wounds from rivals make Allosaurus uniquely relatable. We don't just know what it looked like. We feel like we know what it went through. Its bones are a testament to the fact that survival in its world was a relentless, violent, and truly awe-inspiring struggle. The story of Allosaurus, written in its wounded bones, is a powerful reminder of how much a fossil can truly tell us. We journey back 150 million years, not just to see a fearsome predator, but to read the biography of a survivor. We see its savage grace in the hunt, feel the impact of its battles, and marvel at the sheer toughness that allowed it to heal and fight another day. These glimpses into such a distant, alien past are a gift from the rock itself, a connection to a world of unimaginable scale and brutality. The silent stones of the Morrison Formation have shared a truly epic tale, and they remind us of the countless other stories that still lie buried, waiting patiently for us to uncover them and listen to what they have to say about the long and dramatic history of life on our planet.